Hey everybody, this is Christopher Kitchens. This is my citation presentation. All right. So the case I chose was Lincoln County versus Crowder. It was decided on November 18th, 1985. It went to the Tennessee Supreme Court. And what it did is it established exceptions to the gerrymandering law and the Tennessee Constitution, and it provided a burden of proof for those gerrymandering claims. The case citation is as follows. And so let's break that down. So first you see Lincoln County v. Crowell, and that's what this underlined portion here. This is the case title. It is the parties in the case. Next, we see that this is in the Southwestern Reporter, the Westlaw Southwestern Reporter. It is in the second edition, and it is volume 701. So that's the actual physical book. If you're using the book volumes, you would use book 701, volume 701. And it's on page 602, meaning that it starts on page 602 of that volume. We see here that it was decided in the Tennessee Supreme Court. As we know, whenever you just see the state there, 10 for Tennessee, that means it went to the highest court in that jurisdiction, which is the Tennessee Supreme Court, and it was decided in 1985. And that's what we have here. Some background for the case. I always feel like it's good to start a search by fully conceptualizing your problems and your issues. The case I chose is about gerrymandering. So just imagining we have some sort of hypothetical gerrymandering case, and that we want to find a case that tells us where the burden of proof lies for this type of gerrymandering case. Obviously, the case that we've cited is going to be a good one. So looking into searching for a case on Westlaw, the online resource. So let's say that we have, we want to see how courts have interpreted the state constitution when it comes to drawing district lines, when it comes to maybe incorrect drawing of lines, specifically gerrymandering. So a plausible query would be this one here in black. You see that we have some odd characters here, and so let's go break down what those are. So you have the exclamation point. So these are extenders for the words. So you have constitution. So this could make constitutional. You have line. It could be lines, lines. This is draw or drew. And so you have drawing, drew. Then you have the and sign. So that basically means that you want to have the words constitution or any variation of that word in the same case as a variation of draw. And then you have this this sign, which the star, which means basically it's a replacement for a vowel. So that's what allows us to have that sort of elasticity to say that it could be either drew or draw, or and paired with this, it could be drawing or drawn, anything like that. Then you have this this character, which is basically to say that it is within that you will have the word line or some variation of that within some variation of the word draw. So within 15 words so they'll be within 15 words of each other. Then you have this symbol, which means that within you're going to have these things within the same sentence. You're going to have line or some variation of it within the same sentence as district. So looking at the text of the case, our case in question, we see that this would, we have to ask ourselves, would this find our case? So first of all, the word constitution, we see the word constitution or constitutional, some variation of those words mentioned 13 times within the case. Secondly, we see that this case does speak extensively on the relationship between the Tennessee state constitution and the subject matter. So looking further into the case, because this doesn't have to be anywhere necessarily proximal to the rest of the query. So you don't have to have the Constitution within the same paragraph or within the same sentence. So, but with these, we see that these do have to be pretty close together because you have to have line within 15 words of draw. The reason we want to do that is because you could have, it could have been drawn lines or drew lines, but the reality is there's a good chance that just like we see here, they could be pretty far apart. And then the same thing with, we see that line has to be within the same sentence as district. So there is flexibility in exactly how far they are away from each other, but they do have to be close. So looking at this paragraph, we see that this is a good example. We see that we would find this search query would yield results in this case, just in this paragraph alone. So the determination of the district court that federal guidelines have been met together with the stipulation that the tolerances suggested by the court in Locker Te Supra have also been met, persuades us that it would be improper to set aside district lines. Now, these are right next to each other. So I didn't necessarily, in hindsight, I could have put district lines in quotation marks, which we'll talk about that later. But obviously, when you're searching, you don't know what the configuration of that is going to be. Like it's not necessarily going to say district lines. It could say lines of districts or lines of the districts. And so we wanted to put, to make sure it was just within the same sentence, because that's really going to be precise enough without being too precise. And then obviously these are within 15 words of draw, of a variation of draw. It ended up being drawn. So also, this is if you do this and you type in this query, our case will be the first search result that pops up. Okay, so let's do a different query. Let's say that we want to go with a more direct approach. We want to specifically find the requisite burden of proof in a gerrymandering case. And that really goes to the heart of what we're talking about. So a plausible query would be this one here. And let's just break it down just like we did the other one. So we see this symbol. This is a paragraph symbol. It means that the word gerrymandering is going to be within the same paragraph of one of these words. So why do we have the parentheses? Well, the reason we have that is because this allows us to say this or this or this. So basically to give an option of any of these words. So obviously we see that these are variations of the same word. So why do we have them in parentheses instead of just putting a exclamation point at the end of PRO? Well, because you could finish that word in a million different ways. It could be provide or provoke or something. So it was just too early on in the word to use that sort of extender. But then we also have the quotation marks. And so the reason we have the quotation marks here is because with this option, we want to have this whole phrase together. We want this whole phrase or really nothing at all. Because we don't want the word burden floating around aimlessly and just bringing us a bunch of cases that just say burden, which don't have anything to do with a burden of proof. You might also ask, okay, well, we already have the word proof. So do we really need to have burden of proof? Because if the question is, would this have popped up anyway? Yeah, it probably would have popped up anyway. But the reason I did this, it's more of a utility thing, because when the search result comes up, it's going to have burden of proof all highlighted together, which is just going to make it easier to spot that out. Because ultimately, we want to see. It would be nice to see the phrase "burden of proof" together, because that's what we're looking for. It's very clear. So it's more of a utility thing. It still would have popped up either way. So looking at the text of the case, we see it says, we are of the opinion, this is part of the case, we are of the opinion that the proof is insufficient in this case to warrant the action taken by the Chancellor. Appellees have offered no evidence to demonstrate bad faith by the General Assembly to establish deliberate gerrymandering. So would this deliver these results? Yes, we see that the word gerrymandering is within the same paragraph as the word proof. So it could have been in either of these. We didn't get burden of proof like we like. So basically what this is saying is that there is a burden of proof. That burden of proof is on the person bringing the suit in the gerrymandering case, and that they have to demonstrate a bad faith by the General Assembly. They have to exhibit that they were drawing the lines in a bad faith way to establish gerrymandering. That's not really topical to the search, to talking about the search, other than to say that we see that we did accomplish what we were looking for by using this by using this query. So thank you for listening to my presentation, and let me know what y'all think and what kind of feedback you have. Thanks.